realize that posting a video on YouTube claiming the perfect anything is like wearing a sign that says "kick me." And just for the record, I know that perfection is a matter of personal opinion. However, my very first job was cooking steaks in a restaurant, and the method I'm showing you here is the result of nearly half a century of personal experience. You will not beat this. So here's what I'm putting into this steak seasoning. I'm using half a teaspoon of paprika, whole teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of dried rosemary, whole teaspoon of cumin seeds, half a teaspoon of anise seeds, whole teaspoon black peppercorns. And now the seasoning mix that will probably be the hardest for you to get. This is Knorr demi-glace. It's a kind of like concentrated beef stock. You can use a Knorr beef cube if you want. This is actually much better. I'm going to grind this together and then I'm going to add salt and sugar to this. Okay, I just transferred it to a glass jar and putting in 2 teaspoons of coarse salt. And the reason I didn't grind this is I want the salt to be coarse. This will help extract the moisture out of it. And the same thing for the sugar. I'm using this natural turbinado sugar, and I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of this too. This is going to caramelize when the steak cooks. And now you put the lid on the jar and shake it around to mix it. And this is ready to go. Now, this meat I'm using is a Russian steak. For Russians who haven't been to Russia for a while, you'll be very surprised. It's nice, fine marbling. They advertise on the package clearly this was made in Russia. This is a Russian meat. It is nothing like the meat you used to find here just a few years ago. Anything you used to get that was good was imported from Australia usually. And if you had a lot of money, you get the meat that was imported from Japan. But as you can see, I'm using a lot of seasoning on here. Much more than most people usually use. But some of it's going to get wiped off at the end. So I'm being pretty liberal with it, but this meat's already warmed up to room temperature. I'm going to put the seasoning on it, and I'm going to leave it stand for maybe another half hour before we come back to it. So just here at room temperature, we'll come back in half an hour. Okay, we're getting ready to do this. The oven is preheated to 180 Celsius. I have a pan heating at number 8 on 1 to 10. I've got some butter, shallots, clove of garlic, and I've got the meat here that's at room temperature, and it's been sitting for half an hour with a dry marinade on. Okay, this is the meat, and you can see because of the salt it's drawn out a lot of moisture. So I'm going to lift it up, put a paper towel on it, dry off this other side. Like this. And the side that was up is the side that's going to go down into the pan in just a couple of minutes. But first, we're going to coat this with some olive oil. Just like this. We're not putting any oil in the pan, we're putting it directly on the meat. Okay. Now to the pan. The pan's starting to smoke, it's very hot. I'm going to add the meat. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes now. We're going to have a good amount of brown on this. Now I'm going to add onion, garlic, and the butter. We're going to melt the butter in the pan. Okay, well, and we're going to start spooning this over the top of the meat. This side is going to take maybe a minute, just over a minute, not very long at all. Mostly this side in the hot pan the purpose of it here is going to be to get the butter melted and the onion and the garlic started to cook. Okay, maybe a minute and a half on this side. You also want to get that steak coated nicely with the butter. Okay. Now I've got a separate pan here. I'm going to move the steak off. Make sure you lift it up a little bit so the butter can go underneath it first. Okay, this is only in the oven for 3 minutes. I'm going to feel it. This is done for me. This is plenty cooked enough. Now the hard part is simply waiting. You put foil over meat like this. Don't seal it in very loosely. You just want to keep it warm. Okay, it's been 15 minutes. And you can see there's a lot of juices ran out here, even as such. So I'm going to lift this up. Meat's still quite warm, but it's rested enough. And put it on a cutting board. And I'm just going to cut into it to show you what it looks like inside. There you go. Perfect. Absolutely perfectly pink inside. Nicely colored outside. Okay, now the fun begins. I'm going to challenge you to something. Put about a teaspoon of cherry wood chips into your stove-top smoker. Then take half the steak and put in here. The other half I'm leaving out, so you've got a frame of reference to compare. Now, put the lid on. I'm going to smoke this just for 5 minutes. Very, very short smoke. Now, as usual, as soon as you see the first whiffs of smoke coming out of it, you close the smoker up the rest of the way and you begin the time. Okay, it's actually been 4 minutes now. I'm going to remove it from the heat source and let okay, it's sitting for 1 more minute. Now, take the meat out again and rest it a second time. It's going to sit on a plate with a little bit of foil over it just for a few minutes, about 5 minutes. Second unveiling. Also looks good. You tell me when you taste this, this doesn't rock. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.